So this has to do with the question about one's own relatives, family members, and also those people that we consider close, but especially those that, blood relations or friends, and those that there's a time factor attached, which makes them even more significant to and for us, where we cherish them in one way or another. From the perspective of the Dhamma, this practice, the deeper we go in unraveling, understanding, directly seeing how things are really beyond the surface, we start seeing that relatives as such, friends, family, they're not exactly all that what we turn them to be, or we take them to be. It resembles those gifts that we would exchange in primary school, or playing, goofy games when we were children with each other. And then I remember we would make these fake gifts, nicely, gift wrapped. Sometimes we would give these, but then there would be another gift tossed in the mix, but majority would be blank. So family members are those lovely gift-wrapped boxes that are empty when you open them. Now, of course, somebody listening to this will be like, oh, come on, Bhante, what is that? That's pretty gloomy. This is not to minimize them, their role and their significance of especially healthy family members, healthy family relationships, healthy friendships, relations. After all, I speak about relational, contextual, and the supportive qualities of that. That goes without saying. However, it is our attachment. This is not like trying to minimize their significance, these individuals, as such, but our attachment to these roles, that is what needs to be given attention to, understood. Why? Because there's this thing called impermanence. This is not just a word, this is a fact. And specifically, the crown of that is the undeniable, inevitable presence of death for every single one. Death is the one that comes in and shows you that the box was empty. The gift-wrapped box was empty. There was nothing inside of it. You turned it into something, but it's all up, basically, a figment of your own imagination, basically. People get married, people have relationships left and right, one life after another. People have sometimes decades-long relationship with one particular person whom they love and adore. Okay, and it is a long time. Let's say you've been with someone for 60, 70 years, or you've known them for that long. So there is a relationship. The closer the relationship, the closer the bond, the harder it is to break it from your end. Why? Because life ends at the end of, well, when the body breaks down. You're dead. What happens to that relationship? This has been a very, like a question that used to, it's like a splinter in the brain for me since I was a child. So I would try to put all this crazy glue, metaphorically speaking, in all of my worthwhile relationships. My grandmothers, my parents, my classmates. And growing up in Lebanon as a child, being injured, I got to see how the fickle nature of these relationships, people I loved and cared for, all of a sudden they were no longer there. They were either killed, like the case was with my cousin. I was like, where is he? He's not going to come by anymore? And then I would see classmates missing. They weren't there anymore in the class. But we had a very strong bond. What happened? And then I saw my grandmothers, one after the other, die because of old age, in their case. So you try to clamp on, you try to latch on to these relationships. But then I saw how it's so fragile, it's so brittle. No matter how well you try to protect it. In fact, I saw this in my parents' eyes when in the hospital, when I was all bandaged up, and this was like after, when I finally came to in the ICU, and they, I was unconscious, but when I realized, when I woke up, and I saw myself all bandaged up, and I saw that I couldn't walk anymore. My head was all covered up because I had a brain, head injury. Shrapnel was caught in there, they couldn't touch it. So I was a baby, I was a kid, a child. All that was taken. The security of living a safe life, protected. And I saw in my parents' eyes the fact that they did not and could not protect their own child. Why? Because it's all conditional. It's dependent on so many factors. So many things have to be perfectly aligned in order for a child or a person to be safe. Whatever that means, by the way, safety. Because yes, let's say you live a safe life, but then you walk outside in a safe country, safe relationship, safe, and all of a sudden you're hit by a car or an earthquake. There was a report of this woman in KL, Malaysia, a few days ago or a week ago. She's going to her temple in Malaysia. She was, I think, visiting from India. She's an Indian woman visiting with her family, I guess family members in Malaysia. So she was going to do a celebration at their temple, a Hindu temple. On the way there, there's all of a sudden this sinkhole that shows up, starts expanding, so the ground is opening underneath her, and she gets to be swallowed. She falls, and they haven't yet found her. And I think they're giving up the search. That was like 8 days ago or 9 days ago. And the parents, the family members, I saw a picture of them sitting there. They're like dazed and confused. Her father, her mother, sister. What happened to that relationship? We like to attach, we like to paint relationships to give them more significance with emotional colors, different colors. And we support those by the recollection of memories, especially those that have a lot of spikes in them, a lot of emotional nuances and colorations and things. And that's another thing why we panic when people we know we have built memories or experienced memories together, when they start to drop out of life, when they start dying, when they start falling away, one after the other. Why? Because it is taking away that expectation that within this gift box, gift-wrapped box, this present, I just want to have something. I don't want it to be empty, because there is this deep, whether we like it or not, realization, but we don't acknowledge it, that keeps coming up at the end of every life and during also. Every single life we have ever had, the loss of things. If it's not the loss of, even if you were all by yourself and you don't have any relatives, let's say you lived on a deserted island, all by yourself, and somehow managed to live till your advanced years, you're going to also notice the loss of other things. If anything, your own body won't be functioning as it did before. It won't appear the same as it did before. The joints won't be working as they did before. So this is another way of understanding impermanence. Impermanence is not a concept. Impermanence is not a thought, a belief. Impermanence is a fact. Impermanence is real. Now, the sooner you come to grips with it, you understand it, you appreciate it for what it is, and from that lens look at your relationships with your family, with your loved ones, then your hold, your grip of these relationships will become softer. You won't be so like white-knuckled, you won't be so shackled, fearful as to what might happen, or full of regrets, or full of pain, sorrow, remorse perhaps, or issues around forgiveness, etc. Because you realize, well, which one am I going to keep tabs on? Because we neglect to consider that we have been going through life after life after life after life after life. Many times we re-encounter these individuals that we have in our life, this life, but not in the same capacity. So the mother that you have right now, the mother that you probably, hopefully are very respectful of and care about, etc., etc., someone that you have decades long of history and memories with, despite the fact that it looks so long, it's insignificantly small when you compare it to the vastness. It's like comparing a drop, a tiny little drop of water, to the entire mass, volume of the oceans combined. Then you're looking at this drop and saying, oh, my mother, oh, my enemy, oh, my loved one, my child, my grandmother, my grandfather, etc., my husband, my wife, our relationship, this and that, and it's so special, it's so special. Well, it's not. It is really not. Because that mother that you're talking to probably was a business partner in another life who actually scammed you over your wealth. Or an enemy who tried to kill you in a long, in the past. But because you almost got a fresh start with them, almost, in this life, well, you look at the context, you look at the relationship, and you say, well, I was born out of this woman and this man. And I remember I was a baby, I was a toddler. They helped me. You see that picture? My mom is holding me from my hands, and my dad is taking with that camera, black and white, and I'm walking, I'm taking my first steps. Yeah, I'm their child, I'm their kid. They're my parents. See? And you play this tape all along, forever and ever in your mind, trying to revalidate the significance, quote unquote, the significance of this relationship. But it is empty through and through. Why? Because that mother of yours is going to die if you don't die first. That friend of yours, no matter how close of a friendship you have, well, the friendship's going to end. Why? Because one of you is going to no longer be there. Or break away while both being alive at one point or another. These are all, that's why it's so fickle. It's so brittle. It's so, it's reliant on so many factors. I remember some years ago, wow, it's been that long. I wanted to learn coding, how to code. So I got myself a few books on, back in the day when HTML was starting, and Flash and all these, probably I don't know what programs they use now, probably C++, I don't know what, Linux. But anyhow, in those days, I tried to learn the coding language, and just to make a single command on the screen, on the computer screen, you had to punch in so many different keystrokes. And then I would follow the directions specifically and look at the screen, obviously, to get the same result. That particular font of a letter in that shape, in that size, etc. All of these are separate commands. And then sometimes it would happen, actually a lot of times it would happen, where it would not come out exactly as it showed in the book. And I would swear, no, I did all the steps. Sometimes I would sleep over it, just like trying to figure out, like, how come? Maybe I should write the author something, like, where is... And then I would go back with the following day with a fresh set of eyes and look at it, and then I would see there was a semicolon instead of a colon. That did all of the, created all that havoc. But I did all the other steps except for that tiny little comma I didn't put. And all of a sudden I have the same exact result. And I was like, whoa. And when you take that into the biochemistry of your body, just, let's say, your eyes, it's all there except for one single thing, rods and cones behind your eyes. If they are not there, if they are malfunctioning, you won't be seeing the same things as most people will. Colors will not have the same effect, you won't see them. It's so fickle, let alone relationships. Why? Because people have made them into too big of a deal as it relates to their growth. because we put so much attention on the other person. In fact, we dump truckloads of responsibility, our responsibility of living our life, making tough decisions, taking some real important critical steps in the direction of having a constructive life, a responsible life with audacity, with taking action, by removing ourselves from a pattern, status quo, falling into the ditch, not making decisions. And we dump all that onto the, significant relationship we have. And this is where we bring in the emotional card to play. We bring in the memory card. And all of a sudden, we're no longer being realists. This is why a lot of people go back to toxic relationships. Why? Because they're afraid to take a step. You have to be serious at times when seriously concerned to take the necessary steps to improve your status, to improve your situation. Is there more suffering in your life because of you not taking this step? Meaning every time you come close to it, you back away. You're afraid. And then you bring up other issues. And this is where people play with the relationship card. Oh, my parents won't like that, or my mother won't like that, or my husband, my wife won't. It will affect her if I actually, go and do that thing that I always wanted to do, which doesn't harm anyone. Meanwhile, you never went and asked your wife, well, how would you feel about this if I do this? So it's all conjecture. It's all presumption. Why? Because it is challenging. And the brain, the mind, in fact, is very lazy, just like the body. Every time you need to pull yourself out of a ditch, it will put up a fight. Because you're expanding your brain, you're expanding your possibilities, you're making a new decision. That's why every day try to see if you can make at least one decision. At least one decision. It can be something very simple. It's very, very simple. Could be with a menu at a restaurant. You always seen this item, but you never order it. When you wake up in the morning, instead of coming out from the one side of the bed, coming out from the other. And try to break the pattern. So in a sense, the relationships we have with relatives, friends, acquaintances, in many ways have turned into stuck patterns. And they keep the person stuck. And anicca, or impermanence, comes in to make you unstuck. Death comes to make you unstuck. To shake you off of this ditch, this inertia. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of people just want to be in a subordinate position. And blaming the other person secretly. Or giving themselves some titles like, oh, I'm a very affectionate so-and-so. That's why, I like to have him be, the decision maker. Or I like to have her dictate my life. It's not dictating, it's a nice chemistry that we got going over here. Yeah? What happens when she's gone? You're a cripple. You know that? You don't know how it feels to live without that presence. We have been convinced of this lie that we always have some people around us. We have blindfolded ourselves into, well, not seeing the fact that we come alone and we're going to go alone. But it's not a lonely journey. There's so much wealth to be gained. Wealth in advancing our awareness, our understanding, our seeing. And this is where relatives, loved ones, friends can really come to augment and support that. And that is a healthy way of having and maintaining relationships. Healthy way of having society. Just like the classmates that you start your earliest days at school, educational systems, primary schools. Some people are very much attached. Even when they go to college or university, they're still there. Some of them are still going to be there around them. They love that. They want to be supported by that. And in essence, there isn't anything bad with that, so long as it's not stifling, it's not impeding upon your growth, where you're holding yourself back from making certain decisions, from really expanding the way you think, the way you understand and see the world. And that is one of the best ways that you can also describe anicca, because anicca or impermanence doesn't necessarily have to be involving suffering in that sense. Gaining of understanding, it has this wonderful quality to it, because which might make you very well, very often in the practice, want to break away from the familiar. Because ultimately that's what a relationship is, holding on to the familiar. Memories, some common denominator there. But what if the familiar is not inducing, is not bringing up a sense of growth in you? You're not becoming a richer person inside. And this is where people get stuck. And they, depending on how big of a drive they have inside of them, to want to know, to want to grow, to want to become even more beautiful, to make life even more significantly tasty. Instead of just going through the loops, just going through the roles of, we come together and then we break away. We come together and then we break away. Then, There are individuals who have become sick of it, that pattern, and they start asking questions. Those are the individuals who are more spiritually inclined in this practice. This is how we view them. Recluses and those who seek understanding of themselves and in the whole cosmos, existence, the world. They want to find out what is what. That is a person who, through countless eons, something has happened in them where they are curious to come out of the patterned way of living. Something calls them to want to understand more. And for such a person, depending on how they're seriously pursuing that, because 99% of those recluses are actually going to fall back into the pattern, into wanting to see those gift boxes full of gifts, like those Kinder eggs, Kinder chocolate eggs that has toys in them. As little kids, we would put them together. And sometimes we would get the eggs that actually didn't have anything. You have the chocolate, you have the yellow plastic egg-shaped container inside, and you pop that open, that there's nothing. Better luck next time type of a thing. Many people are stuck there. But it depends on how serious you work. And the work will speak for itself. If you're completely consumed, if you're all about relationships, then you won't grow, plain and simple. You're stuck. No matter what embellishments, bells and whistles you add to it, you won't grow. You're a victim of your passions. You still seek companionship. And as far as this practice goes, that is not the path. That is not the proper practice, because we need to, sooner or later, seclude ourselves. Nevertheless, this is not about having people become monks or something like that. No. It's about allowing yourself not to fall victim to wrong ideations, wrong beliefs that have no bearing on the truth, have nothing to do with the truth, with reality. So approaching things with realism, approaching things with practicality, approaching things with honest understanding and knowledge based on what you see. So don't turn them into something they're not, these relationships. Nevertheless, they're there to support your understanding. That's how I would address that question.